The FBI knew that Carter Page was a CIA source reporting on Russians in August of 2016, but hid it from the FISA court in order to get a spying warrant on President Trump and his campaign. Hello, this is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to be talking about the FISA warrant on Carter Page, the FISA warrant application. It was obtained in October of 2016, and it gave the Obama administration, the Justice Department, and intelligence agencies unprecedented access to a presidential election campaign. Carter Page was a foreign policy advisor, and so what it allowed the Justice Department to do was go back in time and get all of his emails, text messages, phone calls, and other documents with his contacts and his contacts. During his time with the campaign, and this surveillance carried over into after the election and into the Trump administration. But they knew as far back as August of 2016 that Carter Page was no Russian agent. He was a CIA operative or source who was providing information on Russians to the CIA. And according to Inspector General of the Justice Department, Michael Horowitz, this was left out of the FISA application. It would have been mitigating, exculpatory information that made it sound like that, no, Carter Page is not a Russian agent on behalf of trying to get the DNC emails onto WikiLeaks or anything like that, as the Steele dossier had alleged. No, he was actually a U.S. agent providing information on Russians, and the very contacts with Russians that he had had in the past were used against him by the Justice Department that were in fact exculpatory, according to the Inspector General report. And so I'm going to kind of quote portions of the Inspector General report, because this totally exonerates Carter Page. He should have never been under surveillance. They had 3 renewals of this FISA application, and it enabled spying on a presidential campaign, and maybe even more importantly, the Trump administration, the President of the United States. It's just an unbelievable abuse of power. Again, in August of 2016, they had this memorandum, according to the Justice Department Inspector General, detailing abuses of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act against the Trump campaign in 2016. But they knew, Crossfire Hurricane team knew ahead of time that these were false allegations, that Carter Page wasn't a Russian agent. It was Page's contacts with Russians more than anything, including a trip to Moscow in 2016, July, where he gave a commencement address at the new economics school that the Justice Department used against him. According to the Horowitz report, on or about August 17, 2016, the Crossfire Hurricane team received information from another U.S. government agency, that's the CIA, advising the team that Carter Page had been approved as an operational contact for the other agency from 2008 to 2013, and detailing information that Page had provided to the other agency regarding Page's past contacts with certain Russian intelligence officers. However, this information was not provided to National Security Division attorneys and was not included in any of the FISA applications, despite it being known. That was in August 2016, 2 months before the FISA application was even approved and completed. The FBI had proof positive that he was a U.S. intelligence operative, not Russian intelligence, and that was exculpatory. It might have meant that there was no spying, yet per Horowitz, the full extent of Page's relationship with the CIA was never forwarded to the National Security Division. It wasn't included in the FISA applications, including the renewals, even though the information had been requested by the Justice Department's top brass, according to Horowitz. Quote, when Case Agent 1 was explicitly asked in late September 2016 by the Office of Intelligence Attorney assisting on the FISA application about Page's prior relationship with the other agency, the case agency did not accurately describe the nature and extent of the information the FBI received from the other agency. Then, as the case agent included a comment in response to this that downplayed Page's role with the CIA, stating, he did meet with the CIA, however, it stated, and I would argue it is outside scope, and I don't think we need it in. It was years ago when he was in Moscow. If you want to keep it, I can get the language from the August 17 memorandum, and we were provided by the government agency. but the Inspector General found that this statement to the Office of Intelligence at the National Security Division was false. Quote, the information case agent 1 provided to the OI attorney was inaccurate. Why? Because as they outlined in the report, Horowitz, quote, Page first met with the other agency in April of 2008, and he left Moscow. Page had lived in Moscow from 2004 to 2007. So this was after his Moscow time, and he had been approved as an operational contact for the other agency from 2008 to 2013. Additionally, rather than being outside the scope of the FISA application included allegations about meetings Page had with Russian intelligence officers that Page had disclosed to the other agency. Specifically, according to the August 17 memorandum, Page provided information to the other agency in October 2010 about contacts he had with Russian intelligence officer number 1, which the other agency assessed likely began in 2008. Page's contacts with the intelligence officer in 7 and 8 were among the historical connections to Russian intelligence officers that the FBI later relied upon in the first FISA application and subsequent renewal applications to help support probable cause. But this was exculpatory information. By dressing it up as nefarious contacts rather than contacts on behalf of the CIA and gathering intelligence, they made Page appear to be a foreign agent when in fact the information in their possession showed that he was an American agent. In other words, the contacts Page had with the Russians cited in the FISA application used by the government as evidence he was a Russian agent, upon examining the details, were evidence that he was a U.S. agent reporting on Russians to the CIA. What's more, if the Office of Intelligence had been alerted to this fact from Horowitz, quote, the OI attorney also told us after being informed about information in the August 17 memorandum from the other agency that if OI had been aware of this information at the time of the application, OI would have discussed it internally and likely would have disclosed the information to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to, quote, err on the side of disclosure. Similarly, Stuart Evans, good cop over at the Justice Department, then National Security Division, the Deputy Assistant Attorney General, when asked about the IG, by the IG, that the information that Page was a U.S. asset would have been included in the FISA application. Quote, I think it would go in the application somewhere, be it in a footnote or elsewhere, if for no other reason, then it also goes to the question of where the person's loyalties lie. This is a surveillance application to the FISA Court to see if Carter Page is a foreign agent. If they have information in their possession that shows that he's an American agent, that should be included. And the judge might say, you don't need surveillance. He's working for the CIA. That's why he has contacts with Russians. And why might it have been included? Because it was exculpatory. It was reason to say Page was not a Russian agent. Per Horowitz, quote, the OI attorney told us that it is relevant to know if the target of a FISA is or has been working on behalf of the U.S. government agency to, quote, make sure that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing when seeking FISA authority. As previously noted, according to the OI attorney, it would have been a significant fact if Page had a relationship with the other U.S. government agency that overlapped in time with the interactions with known Russian intelligence officers described in the FISA applications, because it would raise the issue of whether Page interacted with the Russian intelligence officers on behalf of the other agency or with the intent to assist the U.S. government. Evans told us that information about a FISA target's relationship with another U.S. government agency is typically included in a FISA application. Evans also stated that OI would work with the FBI to fully understand any such relationship and describe it accurately in the relevant application, but that didn't happen. Instead, the information that would have exonerated Page and maybe stopped the spying was excluded. They sat on it, they covered it up. They lied to the FISA court. I think that's very clear. They knew he wasn't a Russian agent, and they spied on him anyways because they thought that that was a backdoor into the Trump campaign to get spying on the opposition party in an election year. Such an abuse of power. So outrageous. This just makes your blood boil. According to Horowitz, quote, although this information was highly relevant to the FISA application, the Crossfire Hurricane team did not engage with the other agency regarding this information. In addition, in response to a question from the OI attorney, in September 2016 as to whether Carter Page had a current or prior relationship to the other agency. Case Agent 1 provided the OI attorney with inaccurate information that failed to disclose the extent and nature of Page's relationship with that agency. As a result, the first FISA application and FISA applications renewals 1 and 2 contained no information regarding the prior relationship with the other agency and did not reveal his relationship with the other agency, overlapped in part with facts asserted in the application regarding Page's ties to particular Russian intelligence officers. So eventually, Page's role as a CIA, now this would bubble up again because he's out there, he's on television, he's defending himself. There's a question of whether special counsel Robert Mueller is going to come after him, etc., based upon the Steele dossier. Fallacious, false allegations that Trump and his campaign were Russian agents, that Carter Page, Paul Manafort were intermediaries to Russia to assist in the DNC and John Podesta hacks and put the emails onto WikiLeaks. We now know from special counsel Robert Mueller that was all false, that there was no conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. The Inspector General report provides further corroboration for that. Michael Cohen, for example, as Steele had detailed, had never been to Prague, meeting with Russian agents. There were other inaccuracies about Carter Page. They had contradictory statements from witnesses. Steele's primary subsource, according to the Inspector General, directly contradicted the claims in the Steele dossier. And it's just an outrageous abuse of power that they were coming after Trump with made-up allegations where Steele maybe have exaggerated what his primary subsource had told him and included all this supposed first-hand information from Kremlin insiders and Russian foreign ministry officials and other Russian intelligence officers that Trump and his campaign were bought and paid for Russian agents, and none of it was true. It was directly contradicted as early as January of 2017. The FBI knew that the information against Trump and Carter Page was false and had been made up, and that it was hearsay, something that the subsources had heard at a bar one time, and just gossip. Political gossip was allowed into the FISA Court. And as far as Carter Page, real information that the government had about Carter Page being a U.S. agent was suppressed to the FISA Court. And so this bubbles up again at this time in June 2017 when they're coming up on the final renewal of the FISA application. Justice Department lawyer allegedly altered an email from a CIA liaison stating that Page was a source for the agency to say that he wasn't a source for the agency. From the Horowitz report, SSA-2 received an email from the OGC, Office of General Counsel attorney, that appeared to be forwarding the liaison's June 15 response email concerning Page's historical contact with the other government agency. However, the OIG determined that this forwarded version of the liaison's response email had been altered specifically and not a source, quote, had been inserted in the liaison's June 15 response after the other information. So it was then read to read that this is who Page is, and he was not a source, except that not a source was inserted into information that the Justice Department ultimately relied upon to get another renewal of the Page FISA application and warrants that enabled the spying to continue all the way through the end of June, July, August, and September. So until September of 2017, the spying was continuing on the Trump administration and other former Trump campaign officials. By then, special counsel Robert Mueller in June had been appointed, and the presumed true objective of the surveillance had been achieved. The president of the United States was now under a full-fledged criminal investigation. They got what they needed. They lied to the FISA Court to get the surveillance, to get Jeff Sessions to recuse himself, and then to get special counsel Robert Mueller appointed. I think that this shows that there was ill intent to take out the president, to spy on him in 2016. And then after he won the election, the Justice Department escalated its efforts. They carried on the investigation over into the Trump administration. They had exculpatory information the entire time that would have exonerated Trump and Carter Page and all these other officials. Nobody who was ever charged, by the way, with any conspiracy with Russia per the Mueller report. And all of the prosecutions that came from Mueller were for process crimes or for crimes predating the election. In the case of Paul Manafort, dealing with financial and tax evasion types of charges. And I'll leave you with the close here. They thought that Mueller was going to finish the job, but they were wrong. And now with the Horowitz report, we know the extent of the misdeeds and malfeasance. We have statements now from the Attorney General, William Barr, that this is not going to stand. John Durham says that they're going after the predication of this investigation, and they don't believe it was adequately predicated. In fact, according to Attorney General Barr, the Inspector General's report now makes clear that the FBI launched an intrusive investigation of a U.S. presidential campaign on the thinnest of suspicions that, in my view, were insufficient to justify the steps taken. It is also clear from its inception the evidence produced by the investigation was consistently exculpatory, and that includes this information about Carter Page. He was no Russian agent; he was an American agent, and that's, I guess, what the reward for helping out the United States in intelligence gathering. When it's politically convenient, they'll change the information. They'll make your contacts to be nefarious. They'll make you into a traitor, an enemy of your country, and then use it to take out political opponents. I think that's outrageous. And Durham and Barr, they need to get to the bottom of this. We need FISA reforms, both regulatorily. Congress needs to get involved to make sure that this never happens again. We're looking to the Attorney General to make this right. We need justice to be done here. Horowitz asked officials why the information exonerating Page was sat upon, and he got a lot of do not recalls from the Justice Department lawyers and other forms of excuse making. But the fact that the FBI and Justice Department went through such lengths to conceal exculpatory facts from federal court in order to protect their precious surveillance of the presidential campaign, the Trump campaign, then the sitting president of the United States after January 2017, and it's such an unbelievable abuse of power. It warrants a full-scale criminal investigation, which is fortunately being pursued by Durham and Barr. Carter Page and the American people deserve justice for this unprecedented fraud that was perpetrated on the nation for close to 3 years. Now, thanks to Inspector General Horowitz, we are one step closer. And this needs to be fixed. We can't have spying on presidential campaigns. And have it so that CIA agents are made to be Russian agents and defrauding the court. This must never happen again. That's the commentary. This is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.